These catacomb walls, littered with the bones from the Scattered Remains collection designed by Tiger Skull RPG, are going to have your players freaking out. And I'm going to show you how to build them this week on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week we're going to continue our Catacomb series, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite tile series here on the channel. I'm going to show you a whole bunch of different options for making these walls with respect to design, skeleton placement, making some torches out of LEDs, and so on. But that being said, there's so many other options that I would have liked to have tackled, but I just didn't have time to. So let your imagination run wild when you design your own. Make sure to check out in the description below Tiger Skull RPG to grab the STL files if you got a 3D printer. If not, you can also buy the print on demand option as well. Don't forget, Firelight Fables candle, TWC10 at checkout gets you 10% off your entire order, and a small kickback comes to me. Alright, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, we're going to kick off this video with the Land of Shadow candle by Firelight Fables Candle Company. It's what I used in the last video, and I'm going to use it in my next one as well. Now, the walls for our catacombs are going to be 6 inches long by 2.5 inches tall. You can make them a hair shorter if you're worried about them bumping up against each other and not fitting flush, but you really shouldn't have an issue with these dimensions. The two smaller sections, you can see we're going to use those for our corner sections for the walls. And this video was a lot of fun to make, and I'll tell you why. The skeletons from the Scattered Remains collection from Tiger Skull RPG, you can find a link to his site in the video description below, really gave me a lot of opportunity to have my creativity just go wild with how I want to place these skeletons in the walls. And all we're really doing is just trying to get a decent shape to the top of the wall. You can see I rolled this with my texture roller when I was done, but we're going to add a really cool texture paste that I came up with to these walls where you don't even have to texture them when we're done. Now that was one of the laying down, I guess, skeletons, and I just used that to measure the size really of the tomb area. Ripping these out, we don't care what the back of this looks like because it's all going to get covered up with the texture paste here in just a few minutes. Now you want to make sure to have your shop vac running and handy for this because there's going to be a lot of little pieces. And you can see right here, I didn't really screw up, but I made a straight wall section and I had one too many. So I'm just covering up that one little piece. I'm going to make a corner section out of it. No big deal. Typically, you would put all these square pieces together first. It's going to have a little bit better flow. You'll see here just what I mean in a minute. So right here, if I had the two square pieces together, I wouldn't have had to have gone so deep right there in that cut to have this look like one solid piece, but you get the idea. Alright, now my favorite texture roller, break this out, and if you don't even want to make the texture paste that I use in this video, just rolling it up with some aluminum foil and this guy right here, gonna be awesome. Alright, now I know this looks like a wedge of cheese, but what we're gonna do is have a little section for one of the skeletons that was designed that looks like he's sitting up. And I did something really cool with a second skeleton that Tiger Skull RPG designed as well. This is really where, again, your creativity can just let it go wild. You know, anything you can think of for these, just have at it. Now that looks really kind of funny, right? No big deal. We're just gonna address the straight edges with the X-Acto knife, and then with my texture tool, really rough it up. Alright, in this section right here, we're going to place a skeleton like he's standing up and coming right out at you. It's going to add a little bit of action to this corner wall section. And for this, it's going to be a section where you can actually have like a door going to the center chamber of the catacombs. We're going to change and modify this in just a few minutes later in the video. If you're enjoying this video and my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Okay, so this is the texture paste that I was telling you about. I used it in my last video, but I only put a little bit of baking soda in it. In this video, we're going to really dump a ton of baking soda in here. It's going to help add a lot of texture to our walls. The consistency you're going for is sort of like a thinned down peanut butter. You can save this stuff. Once you've applied it, anything left over, put it in an airtight container and it's gonna last a long time. I left mine in that yogurt container there in the background. It had a hard shell over it and it was still good a week later. You can see how there's no point in texturing any of this foam. We're gonna stipple this all over the wall. Let it set for about 10 minutes and then just tap it, and any spot that smooths over will have a nice rough finish. Okay, now here's the paint combination that I went with. It was a light tan, a green, and a brown. I wanted my walls to be a little bit lighter color than the floor of my catacomb, so that's what I was aiming for. I'm gonna paint the entire thing pretty much one color, with the exception of some recesses and some crevices. I'm gonna paint those with a little bit more brown, just to draw some attention to those. Then we can hit this whole thing up with a black wash, and then we're gonna be ready for some LEDs and some miniatures. But first, let's check out our video sponsor.
And what would you be willing to sacrifice to get to the surface? Would you give your blood for it? Your friends? Your soul?
When you stand in the court of the blood drinkers, haunted by what you've seen, well, you would be a brave hero indeed, if you still thought of saving anyone but yourself.
Well, I have to try. Someone has to.
Fables is an all-in-one 5th edition subscription service from Ghostfire Gaming, which gives you access to a new adventure episode every month, which is inclusive of digital maps and tokens. Each adventure arc runs over 6 months, with a brand new adventure starting in July of 2022. Their first story in the Fables line is Citadel of the Unseen Sun, which is also the first ever Grim Hollow adventure. This subscription service has a price tag of $14.99 a month, and if you sign up now, you can purchase previous episodes for a discounted rate. You can find a direct link to Ghostfire Gaming in the description below. Alright, now for my favorite part of every craft, the details. We're going to start here with the hot wire knife, boring out a small hole on the bottom of a few walls so that we can fit some single CR2032 battery packs, as well as a double battery pack for the archway that's going to be the center of our catacomb chamber. It's going to fit nice and snug right in here, and just bend the leads there at the very end to try and kind of poke them out through the wall. Using a pair of, fine tip tweezers shouldn't be an issue to pull these through. This is a wire wrap tool. Using this, there's no soldering required. I used this tool and then a little bit of hot glue to hold all these torches on. Now, I've used the coin slot method that I used on the channel a long time ago, but this is just a really cool way of hiding that battery within the walls. Alright, so here is the entrance to the center of our catacomb, and I would definitely recommend doing all of this before you paint it and everything. This was more of an afterthought for me, that I thought it would be really cool to have some torches on each side of this thing going in and out of this center chamber. So all I'm doing is extending the leads, the positive and negative, from that double battery pack from one side of the wall to the other. So we're going to take 2 black wires, and I should have had a red, but in this case I use an orange. We're going to twist those together, and then using the wire wrap tool, we're going to put those right onto the leads of my torch that I made, and a little bit of hot glue, hold those together, run the leads through to the other side, rinse and repeat, and you'll be stuck with an awesome looking entrance and exit to the center of the catacombs. I just used my clay sculpting tool to press the wires in there, and then some hot glue to hold it together. You're never going to have to access these wires. I left some slack there on the left and right side, so if the torches ever go out, you can pull them out and replace them. Now, going to some pastels, we're going to use some green and some brown. It's hard to explain. Pastels add a color to your crafts different than paint. It's really awesome. It adds a different tone than just doing a dry brush. I really enjoy using pastels, and I recommend going this route. A little bit of alcohol in there to hold it together. It knocks down the vibrancy of the pastel, but that's definitely the way to go when you have a lot that you're trying to cover. You've seen this jig in the Catacomb wall video, using that again to get my magnet placement correct. Just putting some hot glue in the foam, a couple of magnets, and it's going to hold to the floor really well. Okay, now we can go to the Tiger Skull RPG files that we printed off in the last video. And this is, again, where we have a lot of fun just, using our imagination to place these wherever we can. Here's the active skeleton kind of coming out. Don't be afraid to use something like this in your crafts. If your friends say, oh, well, this thing's moving, it looks like it's attacking somebody, we're just going for a really fun and exciting looking craft here. Some fun walls to look at, so just go crazy with it. You can see a little bit of a, kind of a emotional, sentimental look here. They just fit really well, so I had to place them in there like that. Alright, again, perfect example of don't listen to your friends if they give you a hard time on your crafts. Yes, these are going to be standing up, and yeah, skeletons would probably crumble over time, but I thought they looked cool at an angle, so that's what I did. Now, I had a couple broken laying down skeletons. Easy. I just wrapped them in some paper towel, and I liked the little quilted print on that. Initially, I was going to try and get rid of it, but I left it because I thought it looked really cool. Add a little detail to the wrappings. Using some browned up water. Is that a word, browned up? I don't even know. Using some brown water, we're just going to paint that paper towel, a little Agrax Earthshade to add some darker areas to it, and then a little bit of Eileen's Tacky Glue to hold those in place. Alright, and I want to show this. You can see that little wisp of hot glue. A real quick burst of heat from that. It's not going to hurt your paint job, and it's going to get rid of all those wisps and, allow you to keep moving. And then finally, make sure to grab some more pigments and place them over your craft where all your skeletons are. It's going to make them look like they've been laying there for a long time and really tie them together with your walls. Once you have them all dusted up with pigments, give them a little splash with either some pigment fixer or some rubbing alcohol, and you're all done, and these are ready for your tiles. Okay, I've got one video left in this series, and I'm going to create some scatter terrain for Catacombs. And after seeing the cover art from Ghostfire Games, Fables, Citadel of the Unseen Sun, Episode 1, Death is Not the End, the crawling grave creature on that, it looked totally awesome, and I want to create that. I've got a bunch of Scattered Remains bones left over from this whole series, so that might happen. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see that, and maybe some other options for some scatter terrain for future videos as well. Ghostfire Games has some really awesome content. Their player's guide and the campaign guide is some really top quality stuff. I'll have a link in the description below. Make sure to check them out. Tiger Skull RPG, check him out as well to grab your Scattered Remains collection, as well as Firelight Fables, TWC10 at checkout. Get you a little discount and gives a little kickback to my channel. While you're down there, hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. Also, check out my Patreon to help support me. And until next time, I'll see you around.